Welcome back to Wasteland Engineering. In the previous episode, we went over the basics of synergistic design. We talked about what synergistic design is and the two ways we can leverage it to improve our build. As we apply synergistic design to our build, we will usually find several items that could benefit our weapon. In order to further narrow down our choices, we will need to take a deeper look at item perks and how they work. In this episode, we will be talking about the two main types of item perks and how to choose between them. Item perks in Crossout can be classified as either conditional perks or constant perks. Items with conditional perks will provide their beneficial effects only when a certain condition is met. For example, the Oppressor engine and the Chameleon module both have conditional perks. The Oppressor improves the reload speed of our weapons, but only while we are moving, whereas the Chameleon hides us from both view and radar, but only when it is active. On the other hand, items with constant perks always provide their beneficial effects, as long as they remain attached to our vehicle. For example, the Hot Red engine and the Chill Radiator both have constant perks. The Hot Red improves the reload speed of our weapons unconditionally, while the Chill reduces the heating rate of our weapons unconditionally as well. Rarely, some items may have a constant perk and a conditional perk at the same time. For example, the Seal Radiator has a constant perk that decreases the heat up rate of our weapons, while also having a conditional perk that improves its efficacy depending on the speed of our vehicle. When trying to determine an item's perk type, our most helpful resource will usually be the item's tooltip. Items with conditional perks tend to use conditional words in their tooltip descriptions, such as for, while, if, and when. In contrast, items with constant perks tend to have shorter tooltips and lack conditional words in their description. If an item's tooltip is unclear, we can always test the item in the garage or use an exhibition blueprint to manually determine which type of perk it has. After categorizing our remaining item choices, we will run into one of two possible situations. We will either need to choose between items with the same perk type or different perk types. When deciding between items with the same perk type, our decision can be guided by either statistics or preferences. When choosing between items with different perk types, we should instead use the following questions to help guide our decision. If I am going with a conditional perk, how likely am I to fulfill the requirements? If I am attempting to fulfill the requirements, will I be putting my weapon at a disadvantage? If I'm actually able to trigger my conditional perk, how big of a difference will it make? Let's apply these questions to an example build. This time, we will be building around the Executioner Axial Cannon. If we look at the available cabins that could be synergistic with our weapon, we can see that the Echo and Icebox cabins are two possible choices. Both cabins have perks that will apply to our weapons. The Echo's conditional perk provides a reload bonus to all reloading weapons, while the Icebox's constant perk provides a damage bonus to all axial weapons. As we have two potentially valid choices, we will use the previous questions to help us determine which cabin will be better for our build. First, how likely am I to fulfill the requirements needed for the Echo's conditional perk? If we have a closer look at the perk, we can see that it requires us to be within 150 meters of an enemy. As an axial cannon user, we will usually be much further away from our target, making it somewhat unlikely that we would fulfill this requirement. Second, in trying to fulfill the requirements, will I be putting my weapon at a disadvantage? Because our executioner cannons have a limited turning angle and long reload times, they are somewhat unsuitable for close-range battles. If we try to fulfill the requirements by getting close to our opponent, we will be putting ourselves at a disadvantage. Last, if I am able to trigger my perk, how big of a difference will it make? The Echo's perk increases reload speed by 50% for a short duration, which is significantly stronger than most other reload improving perks. This sudden increase in reload speed can catch opponents off guard, as well as drastically increase our damage output. In answering our questions, we can see that the Echo's conditional perk, while strong, may not be the best choice for our example build. Due to our choice in weapons, it is unlikely that we will fulfill the requirements for the Echo's perk. In addition, going out of our way to meet those requirements will put us at a disadvantage. Because of these reasons, we are probably better using the Icebox cabin instead of the Echo cabin for this build. In this episode, we talked about the two main types of perks and how to choose between them. As we end this episode, we want to keep the following guiding questions in mind. When given a choice between multiple synergistic items, are we able to determine which items have a conditional perk and which items have a constant perk? When choosing between a conditional perk and a constant perk, have we taken into consideration the advantages and requirements that come with our conditional perk? That's all for this episode of Wasteland Engineering. In the next episode, we will be wrapping up our topic of synergistic design by looking at how to choose the best movement type for our vehicle. Thank you for watching, and see you out there in the wasteland.